It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantha Tracks TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
It has been quite a monumental week for Star Wars fans this week, as Disney went wild with a whole host of Star Wars announcements. So let's not waste any time and get straight into what we're going to be covering this week. First up, we'll be looking back at Mando Mondays, which seems like an age ago. Hasbro were making reveals, and we've also got reveals from Funko, Fortnite, and the Mission Fleet as well. We'll be looking at Temuera Morrison's comments on Boba Fett. We'll be looking at the announcements from the Disney Investment Day and all the amazing new projects that Disney announced, 10 Star Wars projects in total. And we'll be having a little discussion about the sizzle reels that came out from the show for the newly named ANDR series, Bad Batch, and Rogue Squadron, a new movie that was announced as well. After that, we'll be heading over to JABBA'S court to have a discussion on the Mandalorian Chapter 15, The Believer. We saw the return of the character Mayfield, and we also saw Mando and Boba team up for the first time. And if that wasn't enough, we'll have one last round at the Cantina, where we'll be talking about the fact that there was no sequel element or sequel character appeared in any of the new announced projects this week. So has Lucasfilm abandoned that era of storytelling? To discuss that and a whole lot more, joining me this week, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster from Making Tracks podcast on the Fantha Tracks radio. There they go. Both there, pointing in the wrong directions.
Evening, always the wrong direction. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
How's your week been, guys?
Mr. Newbold?
Go on, Mark. Go on, you go first. I'll be polite today.
Oh, I'm exhausted. Oh, I'm spent already. And I don't know if that's because we recorded an episode of Making Tracks earlier on today. But yeah, what a lot of news. What a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it feels like 2012, you know, when that big announcement came and everybody just fell flat on their backs and couldn't believe it. It was that level. I couldn't believe what we were hearing. If all of it happens, I'll be equally gobsmacked, but it was a good feeling.
Yeah. So let's cast our minds back to a long time ago.
I can't hear you, Brian.
You went quiet, but I'm assuming you're talking about Mando Mondays and that awesome looking NERF blaster.
Yeah.
Which was a bit special. I want this. It's 4 foot long. It'll look awesome in my collection room, and I can shoot passers-by and not get arrested for it. So I definitely am interested in this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
We can hear now. It's all good.
There we go. If I hadn't pressed the mute button, it might have helped.
That's live TV for you.
Nice to mute us, Brian, not you.
Yeah, well, there we go. So, Mando Mondays, long time ago, first product, Nerf gun. It's pretty nice detail to it, but not something I'm going to be adding to my collection.
That would look really good if you paint it up, if you kind of strip it down. And that's what a lot of the Mando mercs do, is they take Nerf blasters and they kind of modify them, they kind of get rid of the branding and stuff like that. And so you could probably make a fairly accurate replica prop of a Mando's blaster. So that's quite cool.
The surprising thing for this, for me, was it's not coming out to fall next year. So, you know, whilst a lot of the Mando Monday products have been coming out spring next year, this one's got a much longer lead time to it as well.
It's brave, because the way Mando's losing things, he's lost his ship, he's lost the kid, he's probably going to lose this gun. I mean, he needs to rein it in a bit, I think.
We also saw this lovely little product, the Mission Fleet Biker Scout speeder bike. I've not seen too much of this series of products, so is it something you guys have picked up in the past?
No, not me personally, but they do look nice. It's just it's another scale, isn't it? So it's like, do you go all in, or do you just pick up what you can? But yeah, I to be honest, I've not seen these in the wild whatsoever, so I don't know whether they're being sold.
I've seen a few. They are nice. I've got one set just around the corner, just out of reach. Can't quite grab it for you, but the packaging is really nice. That's generally what attracts me anyway. But yeah, I think they're cute. Not that I'll collect them, but they are cute. I can see kids being attracted to these.
Yeah, I pronounce this guy's name wrong every week, Mr. Newbold. You tell me the name of this character so I don't make a fool of myself once again.
No, it's way more fun listening to you make a fool of yourself, Brian. I'm not gonna make it that easy.
I'm calling him Kuel. We're going with Kuel.
Quail.
Yeah.
Anything you can eat for Christmas dinner. Yeah.
And the blurg. Much prefer the blurg.
Yes.
Yeah.
$14.99 seems quite a high price point for this product, but that's just my take. Spring next year as well. Whole set of them. Kind of cute. Not my taste, but whole mission fleet there. Again, that's it says there fall 2020. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they should.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So they
I think with Hasbro, they do try these different scales to see what sticks, and if things start moving, they'll put a focus on it. So I get why they do it, but it's a curiosity. It could be one of those things you look back in 5 years' time, going, they were quite neat. I wish they'd done more of them.
Mr. Naylor there, Quail. He's going with. I'll go with that. More Mando Monday products. More Mando Monday products came from Funko. But we start off, the Mandalorians joined Fortnite. I'm far too old for that. So I know nothing beyond it's a multi-mass player online game where you can walk about, talk to people and do stuff. But you can now find the Mandalorian in there. Oh, back one. More exciting for me, this kind of cool little Mando pop. Moff Gideon, who forever will be the chicken man from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cool. I don't do Funko Pops, but I quite like that. And again, Mission Fleet there from Hasbro, whole range there. And from her universe, some Mythosaur apparel as well. Which,
these are quite cool.
Yeah, it's kind of different, kind of nice. We like different. Different's good.
It is.
And but the best thing I thought from Mando Mondays, which is very random, but the Disney collectible key featuring the child. And I have a Disney key from having opened one of the stores.
You lucky son of a gun.
Yeah.
Really?
I did that for another website.
What child did you have to push out of the way to kind of get to the front of the line for that?
There was lots of children. Out the way, I'm opening. So that's in my possession somewhere. I got that from the very first Force Friday, which was a lot of fun.
Very good.
Moving swiftly on, Temuera Morrison's back, being interviewed about the role of Boba Fett when he returned with some style last week. He mentioned that poor Boba's been through a lot, but he's a survivor. We've all been through a lot this year, but what did you think Temuera's take as he talked to the New York Times?
He seems stoked to be back, doesn't he? And quite gratefully mentions George at the end. Thank you for putting me in the role of Django. And there's a nice lineage from that Attack of the Clones era, which is, I suppose you forget he recorded that or filmed it in 2000, didn't he? Attack of the Clones. So he's been in and around it a long time and did the voice of Fett, and now comes back as Boba, tomato. So it was neat. He's very grateful. I don't think he's taken anything for granted. He kind of says that as well.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, seeing a guy rejoin in a new kind of way so many years on. Obviously he was involved heavily during the prequels, but he's had a pretty successful career since as well. So it's good to see him back, and good to see the fact that he's enjoying it as well. And this is what Ewan's got to come, isn't it? Coming back into it in a similar way. So absolutely. and not just Ewan, but we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Highlight of last week, very rarely, everyone was checking out to see what the latest in investor news was last week. With bated breath, they hinted back in the summer that they were going to have big plans announced at their investor day. It's the first one they've had in 18 months. But if we talk first about the non-project stuff, the fact that Disney Plus has jumped subscriber numbers up to 86.8 million, which is roughly, I think, half the number of Netflix are at, just over half. But incredible growth for the platform.
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
Far ahead of what they expected, wasn't it?
Yeah. Part of it's masked a little by the fact that they've merged in subscriber numbers for Hotstar, which is their Indian service. There's 20 million of them subscribed to that service out there. But the most interesting thing was the level of investment they're making into the platform for me. They're talking about 8 billion a year, which is still behind Netflix, but we have to remember Netflix are spending for all their content, where Disney already have a huge library. And there was 10 Marvel series, 10 Star Wars, 15 Disney and Pixar, and 15 movies as well. Were you guys kind of surprised to see that level of investment?
Oh yeah, totally blown away. Yeah, totally blown away. I mean, I think that's the difference. Netflix doesn't really have the depth of the library that Disney can have, whereas Disney actually doesn't really have the new shows at the moment. So, this kind of balance, but that's a phenomenal slate that they've announced. So that's got to be good, and it's got to be positive for investors as well.
Yeah, I think
definitely a statement of intent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously seen an increase in cost, basically $1 a month statewide, so it's not going to break anyone's bank, I don't think. I think people are kind of going to be happy when they see the level of content that's coming at them. I'm just going to pause it there. Are we going to have a 10-minute break before we get into the good stuff?
It seems sensible, doesn't it?
Yeah, why not? Let's do
it. Right. Moving swiftly on to the good stuff. The slate of new projects. Let's start by talking about Lucasfilm's non-Star Wars slate of projects there. Indiana Jones confirmed that James Mangold is going to be taking on the director's seat. Harrison Ford's back. Shooting begins spring of next year for a July 2022 release. Beyond losing Spielberg to the project, I can't see anything but excitement for this.
Me neither. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it'll be the second Harrison Ford film with walkers in it, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think it'll be really good. I don't know. Sorry, mate. I don't know if John Williams is back. I'm hoping John Williams is back. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think ILM are going to be busy. I'm not quite sure what the plan is with Ford. I can't imagine him wanting to be, de-aged. So I just get a vibe that we'll be mixing eras. That's my gut feeling for this one.
Willow as well. Warwick Davis returning. John Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians, he's going to be directing the pilot at least. It's going to be debuting in 2022 as well. I'm sure we're all delighted to see Warwick back in that role. It's kind of something a little bit iconic from our youth. And finally, the last general Lucasfilm project is something that's long been rumoured and reported on, is Children of Blood and Bone, coming to the big screen, where Lucasfilm's going to be partnering up with 20th Century Fox for the first time in a long time to bring that project to the screen. So there's some comments, Mr. Booker and Paul Neal there. Jamie Burns is there. He's delighted to see Willow as well. So beyond that, let's move on.
Jamie.
Let's talk Star Wars and the slate of Star Wars projects announced. First up, a droid story.
You love droids, Brian. You love droids, we know
I
this.
despise droids. There's nothing in this to entertain me. Although I'm interested by the fact it's a combination of Lucasfilm Animation and ILM, which obviously means there's some kind of new tech or something unique that they're going to try and bring to this. That they haven't really said what it is. But yeah, droids aren't my thing. So you guys, what's your feelings on this?
I think it's to promote a new gadget they've designed called the Ewoculus. I think it's going to tie in with that. Sorry. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know what era it's going to be. You know, whether your conversation piece later is, have they left the sequel trilogy alone? And R2 and 3PO are both around in the sequel trilogy. So maybe this is something that ties in because they've not defined when it is. But my head tells me that mid-trilogy leading up to A New Hope. That's why my head tells me. I'm very much looking forward to it. Anthony Daniels will be back, presumably. I'm just curious to see what style they go for, you know, whether it's photorealistic or whether they go for an animation style. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I was a big fan. That the original Droid series was kind of like my entry into Star Wars, that and the Ewoks of all things. So I think it's cool. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we'll talk about this later, but it's interesting that they've gone with 3PO and R2, and, you know, whether or not that's actually going to include BB-8 as a cameo or Dio, because those were the new droids from the sequel trilogy. So it'd be fun. It'd be fun maybe if they jumped around. Maybe if they kind of like did a little bit from different eras and just...
You could go back to the original intention of what R2 and C-3PO were, and that was to be retelling the story of Star Wars, really.
Yeah.
And going back all the way back to the original Star Wars newspapers. And that's a blast from the past.
That'd be great fun. Jamie just posted there. You just put up new droids figures. Yep. That would be awesome. That would be really good fun.
Moving on from that, Star Wars AHSOKA, written by Dave Filoni. It's going to be a limited series starring Rosario Dawson, and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are going to executive produce that as well. I know this one will be high on the list of most anticipated for a lot of people.
Mark?
Oh yeah, well, I think so. I mean, if her appearance and the reaction of fans is anything to go by how it was for Mandalorian, then I think this is going to be a really good series. And, you know, with Filoni and Favreau kind of executive producing this, I think it's just going to be awesome. Again, you know, this is set, I believe, is in or around the Mandalorian era. So, the characters tying in, you know, so there's potential there. And obviously, there's potential to maybe bring in Grand Admiral Thrawn, Ezra, and Sabine. So, you know, there you go. Yeah, as Phil Parker says, she'll be hunting for Thrawn. So that seems like, you know, the perfect kind of storyline to have, I think. Yeah.
Paul Naylor's asking there, when they say limited series, does that mean one season only? I tend to go with yes to that answer. It kind of means they've got a short arc intended. In the similar vein to Kenobi, it's designed to be a set number of episodes. So that's what I'm guessing with AHSOKA. But with everything, if it proves popular, they're going to want to make more. So watch it, consume it, speak about it. Beyond AHSOKA, ANDR. So the Cassian Andor series, it's been on the slate for a while. It's got a logo and it's got a name, so it's going to be called ANDR. Spy thriller. Tony Gilroy's at the helm of it. Diego Luna's coming back. We've got, let's go through some of the names: Stellan Skarsgård, Adria Arjona, Fiona Shaw, Denise Goff, Kyle Soller, Genevieve O'Reilly, back as Mon Mothma, and it started filming 3 weeks ago, due to hit Disney Plus screens 2022. Guys, I'm assuming you're as excited for this as I am.
Oh, massively! This is the one. Yeah, this is the one I'm really looking forward to. I think because of when it's set, you know, the era, what it leads up to, not only Rogue One, but obviously A New Hope as well. I just think we could see so many familiar faces, learn a lot about how we got to where it all began for us, really, as you know, Earthbound fans in 77, 78. I'm stoked for this beyond words, to be honest. This is the one I'm really, really looking forward to.
And Mr. Mulcaster, your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, actually, following up from what Matt said, basically, I mean, I was so surprised. It's just the scale. I mean, it looked like it was going to be another feature film, really. Practical sets, lots of practical creatures and stuff. I mean, it does look like they were using some bits of the volume or the stagecraft tech actually at Pinewood, which is cool. So we'll probably see a mixture, but I can't wait for this. This looks like it's going to be gritty, and it looks like it's going to just kind of like give an extra layer to a character that I think we really need. So looking forward to
it. Next on the list, Lando. Very little known about this project. We don't know where in the timeline, who's going to be in it. We do know that Justin Simeon's going to be the creator behind it, who made the critically acclaimed Dear White People. So it's difficult to get too excited. It's obviously in very early days, or they would have given us a little bit more. But it's going to be an event series for Disney Plus, which again I take it to be a single series production as well. So, Mr. Newbold, what did you think there?
Smart bit of business, that, because if they do it as a limited sort of a special event, obviously they get all the interest and all the outlets push it and promote it. Whether it's got Billy D or Donald Glover, it's going to get eyes on it. It doesn't matter which. We talked about it on Making Tracks, which is out on Tuesday. We think it could possibly be both. They could be going down the young indie route with, framing it with Billy D. This could be the solo sequel everyone's been hoping for. It's a winner whichever way you look at it, I think.
Mr. Mulcaster, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, totally agreed. I guess also the limited series thing kind of means that you can attract these big name actors without having to lock with multi-series seasons, and so you get kind of like your Lando series. And then obviously, if it does do really well, then let's be fair. If Donald Glover's off doing something else for 6 months or a year, you can come back and do another series later on. There's no reason why you can't do that. So I will be really excited for this when this lands.
I think you're seeing a lot more big names get involved in live action TV because the money's there, because the production's there, and because it also fits the timeline. I threw that comment up there, but I'm going to pass no comment. I'm moving swiftly on. Notice how I'm holding right there to try not to laugh.
Next time I see Phil Parker, I am buying him a beer for that.
Rob Wainfer says something more repeatable. Let's hope they don't alter the deal on this one. It's very early, so this is one of the productions you fear might be lost, but I don't think they're going to announce it this early without being confident it's going to lead somewhere. He says, famous last words, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's definitely happening eventually.
Yeah.
It's taken about as long as Brexit to get to production, but almost there. It's going to be set 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, directed by Deborah Chow, who did some amazing season 1 episodes of The Mandalorian. And one Hayden Christensen will be returning as the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader.
Awesome news. Yeah. Awesome. We had a good chat about it this afternoon, and the thought of Hayden coming back as Anakin, if they want to do flashbacks, that's a great idea. Good point from James there. I'm with you on that one. They've got the flashback option, but also Hayden was Darth Vader before he got into the armor. But also, as a third point, Rogue One, you saw him without the arms, without the legs, being in the path wherever it was. You see him in Empire, in his meditation chamber. All of those scenes, you can have Hayden, face onto the camera, and it's a good bit of casting. Obviously, it's going to get so much attention.
Yeah, lots of eyes on that, and I quite liked how the kind of the title card kind of like resolved from sand. So I guess we all know about where it's probably going to be set. So, but yeah, it's great news. I think Hayden Christensen's one of those actors who's kind of like hasn't done a huge amount since Revenge of the Sith, and kind of deserves to come back. I think there's a lot of fans who loved his performance, and I think anything that we can do to kind of get those two actors on screen together at the same time is just going to be awesome.
It's going to start on Tatooine, and I'll say no more. Rangers of the New Republic, set within the timeline of the Mandalorian, much like Ahsoka, and it's going to be executive produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, described as a live-action series, which makes me think it's going to be multiple series, and it's also described as intersecting with future stories and culminating in a climactic story event. So obviously it's going to connect into Mando, presumably AHSOKA as well. There's going to be some kind of crossover payoff. Mando might end at that point. AHSOKA might end at that point, and Rangers may carry on. Thoughts, Mr. Newbold?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. We were talking about this earlier, you know, how I don't think these shows are going to carry on forever. I don't foresee any of these shows being sort of 7, 8, 9 season type shows. I think you're going to have lots of shows, but shorter runs. And yeah, I don't disagree. I think having Favreau and Filoni gives it an extra mark, if you like, in that sense. I'm really curious about this to see what characters they put in and what the plan is. You know, I think you could be seeing, because we're early days after Jedi, so you could be seeing a bit more about the formation of the New Republic. You know, they sort of reset things and where they're based and such. Yeah, it could be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, if Cara Dune's going to take a hop into her own series, I think this could possibly be it. I think this kind of has that kind of vibe, and I'm all up for that kind of, you know, early formation of New Republic, especially out in the Outer Rim. I think you can get a slightly different take to what you'd get on the Mandalorian. So, and it's cool. It's what we've all been wanting. Is some kind of, you know, crossover couple of series that will really end in a big event. Maybe it'll end actually in a more feature length film or you know, show, be it in tomorrow or Disney Plus. That would be a good way to go about.
I forget the name of the marshal from Tatooine, but I wondered if he could.
Cobb Vanth.
That's the one. Could he be back in it as well? You never know.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's see whose armor he nicks for that one.
Yeah. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, something I've been calling out for years. Finally going to make a Rogue Squadron movie. It's going to be and directed by Patty Jenkins, who of course most of us know from the Wonder Woman franchise. Thoughts on this one?
Can I just put it out there? Sorry, Mark. If they do an adaptation, a literary adaptation of this film, and it isn't written by Mike Stackpole, somebody needs a slap around the back of the head, because he's already been interacting with Patty Jenkins online. You know, he wrote all those books. Aaron Alston, bless him, is not around anymore. So I'll just put that out there. Sorry, Mark.
I'll join and slap on the other side of the cheek as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I was going to say, like, with a 2023 release, she's better put her skates on, but you know, yeah. See what I did there? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Slightly surprised actually, because I think everybody was kind of talking about, oh, you know, Rogue Squadron would be a great series, would make for like a fairly logical series. But if this is the start of a new Star Wars franchise, shall we say, you know, a series of Rogue Squadron films, I'm all in for it. You know, we could potentially get Dennis Lawson back, as some of the guys have said. You know, be it as like a, you know, maybe like a General Antilles rather than, you know, Wedge. Maybe he's kind of having to bring up new and train new pilots. You know, I mean, who knows? I mean, the logo and obviously the sizzle kind of suggests that it was going to be set in the OT era because it was a T-65 X-Wing. But, you know, it could quite easily be old, you know, X-Wings flying in, you know, the post-sequel era. So, you know, there's lots of scope for this one.
Yeah, I totally agree on the Mike Stackpole thing. It has to happen. Interesting, it's placed in the first movie slot they had lined up for the next trilogy that they announced. I think that whole trilogy's idea is abandoned. I can see this being a film leading to a Disney Plus series. A little bit
100%.
the way that Marvel have kind of done that, where they've spun off TV shows from movies. I can see that happening. Here, and I'll be watching with interest to see the casting, because that could play big style into that. Next, something quite different: Star Wars Visions, a new creative way to tell the Star Wars story. It's going to be a collection of 10 episodes featuring Japanese anime studios, offering a fresh and diverse cultural perspective to Star Wars. This could be something quite special, and it kind of probably flew under the radar amongst all the announcements.
Yeah, like Rogue Squadron flew under the radar. This really, with 10 different opportunities to bring in different styles, different creative visions. I don't know if it's going to be like a Star Wars Tales or that kind of vibe, or a What If, whether they'll want to give us stories that we never saw or give us stories that never happened, sliding door style. The options are endless, really. And I think for me, this could be a selection of backdoor pilots. If one of these works out, like Rogue Squadron feels like it will become a TV series at some point. This feels like if some of these land people are just blown away and Lucasfilm are happy, then you could really, Animatrix is a great point.
Good,
you could, all stuff for this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think you could go so many different ways with this, or even maybe they could just really delve into the archives and just pull out some old abandoned ideas and just kind of say, right, let's just see. This is like, some crazy ass kind of like second draft ideas from George Lucas, and have some of those. You can really mix it up, and obviously with the different animation styles, again, that could be, like you said, a way of testing to see what kind of animation styles really kind of work and resonate in the Star Wars galaxy, rather than just kind of like plunking all your cash down and then getting a series that doesn't really kind of work. So this could be quite cool. This could be quite interesting.
Next up, because we're still going, Star Wars The Acolyte. We'd had the news that an Emmy Award nominated, still needs to win, Leslie Headland from the mind-bending series Russian Doll is going to be heading up a series. And this is what it's going to be, and it's going to be a mystery thriller set at the end of the High Republic era. So it's not necessarily going to tie in with what they're doing with the books and the comics, but it's going to be set to the tail end of that era, is the way that I interpret that announcement. I'm quite excited for this because I think this one could have quite a different look and feel to everything else. I don't know what you guys think.
Mark?
No, I'm intrigued by this one, because could this be a way of really getting into and delving deep into like the rule of two with the Sith and stuff like that, or is this something completely different? Is this actually like a wannabe Sith who's just trying to kind of like find their way in the galaxy and make a name for themselves? It does actually also, I mean, whilst like you said, it's probably not going to be hugely connected to High Republic, it also does a little bit of extra legitimacy to the High Republic publishing program, which I think is kind of, they've clearly put a lot of money behind that and really pushing that. So there's got to be some kind of payoff from that, be it if it's just locations or a couple of like references. That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's a good point. They can be quite savvy in that they can not box themselves in story wise. It might not be a situation where the authors of the books and the comics need to be overly concerned, but if they set up key locations in the High Republic, and that's referred to and used in the Acolyte, and it's all the same galaxy, so they could be quite cute in that sense. I'm excited that there is something that's absolutely tied into the High Republic, because they were quite keen on saying, this is a literary thing completely, that's it. And I still think, if the characters take off, because they really are going as broad as they can to capture every sort of audience with the High Republic, which is smart business, I think it feels like there's an animated series in there as well. So, I love this one. Really is interesting.
Next up, talking animation, Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Heard about this before, obviously, following on from the Clone Troopers, from the Clone Wars animation TV series. I know loads of people are hugely excited for this. Not me.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Are you excited for this, Brian?
Not me, obviously. Can I make that any more obvious?
No, I mean that sizzle just looked absolutely freaking amazing. I mean, if there's any doubt that they've sunk any less money into this than they did Clone Wars, it's crazy. I mean, it looks as good as the last season of the Clone Wars, and it looked like Fennec Shan is going to make an appearance, hopefully, from the way they had a couple of lingering shots on her to kind of make it really kind of, I think, fairly obvious that, hey, look at me, I'm from a Mandalorian. That's going to be cool. And I'm really interested to see where they take this and actually what they do with those clones.
Yeah, because we're in such an interesting era post Order 66, start the purge. So you'll be touching on stuff there. You see Palpatine. My head tells me that Ian McDiarmid is probably going to be involved because that's clearly him. The look of it looks amazing. I'm really curious to see what sort of other characters and voice actors get involved with this one. But here we go. I mean, look at it. It just looks lush as anything. Like you say, Season 7 Clone Wars, it's just completely that. I'm very much looking forward to this. Just everything about it is singing out to me.
Have we seen a Force whip before in like animated or live action like that? Because that's quite a new kind of weapon. No, but I mean, I just think it's cool just to be able to see potentially the rise of the Empire from that perspective. Around, when they get the memo that there's been a change in management, So I'll be interested to see kind of like how they kind of like approach it, and also how they have to kind of like deal with the fact that potentially they're going to be fighting their brothers. The brothers who they used to fight alongside up until 10 minutes ago suddenly could be turned against them, like Order 66.
It's a slaver's whip he's saying there.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Philip.
Phil Parker, the expert on all whips. Excellent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he didn't have this kind of trivia yesterday in the After Base quiz, but
the one project that was spoken about at the show that didn't have a logo announced for was the Untitled film from Taika Waititi as well. We don't know anything about it. Nothing revealed in this project. Although they never mentioned the writer that was attached to the project during the live stream, so I don't know if there's been a change there. I don't know what would you like to see from him? He's got an incredible creative mind. He could do something quite off-piste.
Yeah, I mean, they showed that logo, didn't they? We talked about it earlier. Yeah, they showed that weird sort of pink Star Warsy logo, and not quite sure what that was all about. But give the guy some credit. He's an Oscar-winning writer. He's directed blockbuster films. He directed an episode of Season 1 Mando. He's got the chops, clearly. Everybody seems to like him. Obviously, Lucasfilm do. So, and it's the Solo situation, isn't it? They have the issues on that film, and that we steered in a direction that works for everybody than maybe before.
Yeah, I quite feel like big Jar Jar story, or maybe something like, I don't know, Kitster and Ward, some kind of buddy cop kind of like caper. That would be quite cool. But I think wherever he does this, it's going to have a certain kind of style and flair to it. As long as it just kind of feels like Star Wars, then it's all good for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We can have a look at the ANDR footage as well that was shown at. It was another. We talked about this earlier. Really beautiful sizzle reel that they released during the presentation as well. Harking back to Rogue One, but also giving us a little insight and look at what they've been doing in terms of content, filming. They revealed that it started 3 weeks ago, so this one's quite well into production with the release coming in 2022. Was there an element from the sizzle reel that stood out to you?
The scope of it, the size of it.
Yeah, just the size. Yeah, I mean, what did I say? 200 casted actors, which is kind of like compared to the cast for Mandalorian, is massive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And Neil Scanlon's back, which is good to see. They're I mean, I would imagine they've got to. Why would you not use stagecraft if it's there as an option for certain scenes? But it feels like when they can, they're going large. They're doing, the Chronicles of Riddick style big sets, and they're really giving it a good go. So I like the look of that. It like Mark said earlier, it looks like a film. That's the best thing you can say about it. It just looks like a film.
Yeah. I was amazed at the number of creatures in it. I think I saw one of the design team comment that there was a repurposed alien from Solo was shown as well, which is the huge benefit of this happening at Pinewood, is that there's so many assets already existing there that they can tap into, and with stagecraft you can make a TV series now film quality.
Oh
yeah, easy.
Totally.
Yeah.
The line has gone. The demarcation line has just completely gone in the last couple of years. It's all the same. It's all entertainment. It's just where you consume it now. There's no difference, I don't see.
Exactly.
And the last sizzle reel to look at is something that I'm guessing was going to be part of Star Wars Celebration in August. It just has that kind of feel of, oh, one last thing kind of moment.
Yeah.
Was the reveal of the Rogue Squadron film. And Patty Jenkins there revealed why she wanted to do it, which I thought was quite a touching way. I think she's really invested into this project, not just the fact it's Star Wars, but the whole concept behind it. We don't know much about who she's going to add to the creative team, but I think most people will be happy that with her work on the Wonder Woman franchise and everything else that she's done, that she's going to be involved in this project.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think she's going to bring some kind of level of authenticity, not necessarily to the actual pilot flight stuff, but just the character interactions. And I think this is obviously going to be some kind of like homage to her father and all that, which is great. I think if you can put passion into a project like this, and it's only going to work best for everybody involved.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman, it's a great way of introducing a character who's done well, made a buttload of money. Wonder Woman 1984, everything else in from that looks fantastic. She's good at directing action, which is key. It ticks every box, really.
Yeah. I think with all the news covered, we should jump on over to Jabba's Court. So, this week, Jabba's Court, we're debating The Mandalorian Episode 15, The Believer. Mayfield returns after being teased last week. And we also see The Mandalorian and Boba Fett team up for the first time. Diverted a little bit away from the real focus of the story on a side adventure here. I know some people will criticise it and call it filler, but I actually really enjoyed the depth and scale of the episode. Mr. Mulcaster, what did you think of it?
Well, I mean, we talked very briefly last week on Making Tracks. In fact, Mark Newbold kind of like raised the question, what would The Mandalorian be like if you didn't have Grogu in an episode or even in the series? And I think this kind of gave us a good idea of actually this series can work without the little green guy. I wasn't necessarily blown away with the idea of potentially having an episode full of Mayfield, but actually, he really turned it around. And by the end of that episode, I was just like, it's a shame that he didn't actually, stay with the crew, because I kind of thought that, they'd pick him up, and his whole point was to kind of help them get onto the ship, not necessarily just locate the ship. But yeah, I thought it was a solid episode, lots of nice big action set pieces, and the two girls, they really know how to shoot, which I think is awesome. So I think it was just a solid episode, and I didn't feel like it was like it was like a nicely paced, explained next step to get to Moff Gideon. So I'm all in for this one. I think this is going to be a really good end of the season.
Yeah. Mr. Newbold?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see Simon there. Hello, Simon. Yeah, loved it. Mayfield, I mean, season 1, I never thought he was a character I'd want to see more of. It was part of a good, solid episode. The Prison Break episode, it was fine, but he wasn't somebody I lay there thinking I really need to see more of Mayfield. After seeing this, at the end when they drop him off, and I'm like Mark says, I wish he was staying with the team. He fit. He'd kind of earned his place in that clique, because there's that little bit of banter with Cara, and everything just clicked. He worked well with Din. I think they understand each other a bit more now. Not that particularly for Mandalorian, focus on finding the kid, but nevertheless, the whole episode, it was way deeper. There was more going on than I actually expected. It was far more than just it was very linear, like we said, but it was far more than just a chase movie or a breakout movie or whatever. It was quite deep.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think this was the episode where, like, last week we really had the reintroduction of Boba Fett. But this was kind of like the reintroduction to the Slave One, and actually we get to see more of the Slave One than we've ever seen before. And that kind of like that lower part of the ship just looked cool, how it kind of rotated when the wings rotated and stuff. And even the fact that you could see out into space, which is like not something that I would have thought you would have been able to have done in that ship. So, and also, those seismic charges, which is great. We haven't seen those since Attack of the Clones, so it's great that they kind of brought those back and he used those. I mean, I kind of feel like you've got to be careful with Boba Fett, because like if he's used too much, he's gonna empower the story, and he's gonna take too much emphasis away from Din Djarin. So I kind of felt that they used him like in a really reserved amount, which didn't kind of feel like he was just there on the sideline. They gave him purpose. It just wasn't quite as much of a wow moment as it was last week. That's what last week's episode was for.
I like that though. The fact he was part of the team, he was doing his bit. Yeah. He was Uber Fett, wasn't he? He was the getaway driver. At the end when he drops the ramp and they jump on, and I was convinced Mayfeld wasn't going to make it. I was so chuffed that when he took the rifle, blew the place up. All of that was just great. And but Fett, new paint job like Paul Naylor just mentioned. Somebody stole his Airfix paint. Absolutely. Powder spraying it, getting it back to something like it would have been when he probably had it originally. So I was all in. Everything about it I loved.
Yeah, I mean I think they really handled the whole notion that Mayfeld is working through some stuff, like that whole kind of like conversation about Operation Cinder, which you could imagine was probably absolutely devastating to be to witness that, and especially if you've got no control over it. So then to kind of have a chance to kind of like face a guy who's basically just wiped out, was it 1,000 of his comrades, and that is I think everybody would have done exactly the same thing. I mean, the troopers around them weren't expecting it, but it was a good payoff, and I think there was some tension there. I mean, the tension almost kind of reminded me of the opening scene from *Inglourious Basterds*, which has probably got some of the best tension built up over 12 minutes you've ever seen in cinema. So I thought that, and also the conversation they had in the transport on the way there, again, was kind of quite poignant. Kind of reminded me of like Vietnam films and that kind of like Deer Hunter kind of what actually happened to make it out kind of in the stories. So I thought this was it was definitely more than what you first kind of thought this episode was going to be about.
And with it being directed and written by Rick Famuyiwa, we talked about this earlier. I think when you look back at The Mandalorian in, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 seasons time, however long, I think he'll be the guy that's directed the most episodes. I think he'll be their go-to guy. That's just my gut feeling. He's done 3 episodes now. They've all been solid. He wrote this one as well. He's got such a good grasp on the era and the motivations of the characters. Mark Howard just made a great point about how this is the start of a change for the Mandalorian. The helmet's off. His beliefs have been questioned to a degree. There's a lot. There's a lot going on in this episode that could be taken forward.
Yeah. Well, what did you reckon, Brian, about Din having to take his helmet off?
I kind of expected it a little. I think that's where they're going to have to head with it. At some point, they need to reveal more about him and more of his emotions as a character, and it's difficult to do that with a mask. As we've all discovered this year. You've got to be careful with what jokes you make, because you can't smile after you've said it. But there's 2 problems the Mandalorian has, is having the child with him all the time, and what's he going to do with the child, and the mask. And it kind of made me feel like they were starting to deal with that in this episode, and that maybe he's going to have to learn to cope with taking the helmet off. They've kind of hinted at that, obviously, with Bo-Katan and the fact that she took her helmets off earlier. So there's all these little things in there. And
Boba, yeah.
I think they'll use it as a play on his beliefs, and push that as a storyline reason for him dropping the helmet. And I can see that happening as part of the season 3 plot.
Yeah,
It
possibly.
was good to see. It was great to see Pedro Pascal, though, wasn't it? You know, the performance, his performance at that monitor. You know, the reticence, the nerves, everything, angst. You know, it was all there.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, this is the only second time that we've seen him without his helmet on. You know, in 15 episodes. So, you know, you'd think that he definitely would have taken the opportunity to act like the absolute arse out of that, you know, opportunity. And I suppose also it kind of it shows, and he kind of like references it when he's in his message to Gideon, just how important Grogu is to him. The fact that he's actually putting aside this kind of you know, religion, for lack of a better term, you know, and actually taking his helmet to rescue him. Very few people that he would have done that for, if any, before, you know, the start of the season. So,
what do you think we're going to see from the season finale? I've kind of got in my head that Grogu's going to pull a Yoda and be moving about like a little child, and then spring into action with a lightsaber,
bouncing off the walls.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm expecting. But
I'd pay to see that. Malika made a great point there about how Mando taking the helmet off shows his affection for the kid. So I think he's going to go to the ends of the earth or the ends of the galaxy to get him back. I'm not convinced that's going to happen in season 2, though. I think that's going to roll over into season 3. But I still think you've got teenage baby Groot. You know, that change in the kid. He's been activated now. You know.
Yeah. There's got to be something. But exactly, yeah. Well, you know, or just him just in the corner on a data pad, not engaging, you know. So playing Fortnite. But I suppose the thing, you know, the two things that he picked up from the crashed Razor Crest was obviously the ball for the child, but also the Beskar spear. So you think the Beskar spear's probably got to come into play against the Darksaber at some point. You kind of think that, I mean, that is, you know, as we saw in the Jedi episode, that is, you know, the one thing that can kind of deflect lightsabers. So that would make some kind of sense. I'm still not 100% sure if Boba Fett's going to make it out necessarily. I
agree.
You know, I kind of think, I mean, he may make it out, but maybe it's left ambiguously. So it's kind of like, did he or did he not? And so maybe actually he could do, you know, there could be a couple of things. Maybe they actually even swap the armor. So actually Boba Fett makes it out, but it's Din Djarin wearing the armor. And, you know, he then goes off with Slave One and what have you. But I mean, I still don't know what's going to happen with Grogu. I mean, I'm hoping there's going to be some monumental kind of like force, whatever, explosion. But I don't know, you know, we've only got 4 days or 5 days to wait. So, you know, can't wait.
Yeah.
I think on that note, we should go for one last round at the Cantina. So this week, the question I'm posing to you guys is, no sequel element, no sequel characters appearing in the new projects announced, which is really covering the next few years of Star Wars, we presume, unless there's something being held back. Has Lucasfilm abandoned the sequel era of storytelling? And if so, what does that say?
I'll let you go first, Mr. Newbold.
Oh, thanks for that, mate. Thank you. I don't know. I mean, it's still not absolutely nailed down exactly what eras some of the stories are going to be set in anyway. But really, I'm not convinced any of them are going to be sequel trilogy. So I think we're pretty much skirting away from that. I don't know. I think, you know, the prequel trilogy took longer than it ever should have done to be appreciated by certain segments of the fandom. And I think the Clone Wars did a great job of doing that and bringing people around. I don't know. We're still so close. I mean, we're only barely a year past Rise of Skywalker. It feels ripe to do more with it. But then maybe you look at Kenobi as an example of a live-action prequel trilogy era. That's a good point, Matt. You know, a prequel trilogy era, and you're now 15 years on, bringing those guys back because it feels right. Maybe those actors need to have a bit of distance on it because they're all moving on with their careers. They're all fairly young. So there's that. I think if you did a sequel trilogy series and there wasn't Ray Poe or Finn or any of them in there, that might be an issue. But you know that the original trilogy era, it's money. You know, the High Republic, they're heavily invested in it. That's going to work, you would think. I don't know. They're spreading the net fairly wide. I'm kind of surprised they've not at least attempted to throw something into the sequel trilogy era, I've got to say.
Yeah. No, I think there's a part, I think, where a bit of distance is probably not going to be a bad thing to some extent, really, at least with those characters. I think, you know, there's still a lot of polarization in the fandom between, you know, certain films and elements and, you know, characters and stuff. So, but at the same time, you know, to ignore it would be folly, I think, and be it as a streaming service or even just like a sequel, like novel or something like that. There should be something. I don't think you just leave it with the end of Rise of Skywalker. Unless, of course, they've discussed it and said, you know what, yeah, let's just we'll come back to it when a story presents itself. But let's not try and flog the dead horse, as it were, so to speak. If there's no good stories, let's not tie ourselves up like they did with the EU, and suddenly everybody's married and got kids, and then you've got to then go back and kind of like retcon a load of stuff just so you can start doing new films. So, yeah, what was that?
No, I was going to say Paul Naylor just posted a good little thought there. How Galaxy's Edge, you know, that's sequel trilogy era. How long till they redressed it as OT? Because Disney have gone all in. I mean, that was not a cheap thing to build, and it's their era, you know. And now, clearly, it feels like they're stepping back a little bit and playing it safe almost. You know, you can't really go wrong with Andor. It's leading into Rogue One and A New Hope. Mandalorian's proved all the interest in that post-Jedi era, and they're sticking to the there as well. So they are going for safe houses in that sense, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just a case of like if you use series like The Mandalorian to work your way up to that first order kind of era, then actually it's more of a gradual change rather than something that's kind of like fairly dramatic. And then also we'll appreciate it. There'll be legacy there. And we'll be able to kind of like look back and see where kind of like the formations of a First Order and the Resistance kind of came from, and you know, and hopefully, if the Mandalorian and other series can kind of then give us like a greater appreciation of the sequel trilogy, be it whatever that is, then that's going to be good. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's still a finite time period, and there's only going to be so many stories and things you could fit into that period, you know, whereas obviously it's blue skies after episode 9, but it's, you know, they can do whatever they want with it at any point. So I'm sure they will get to it at some point, and how far in the future is going to be set.
My kind of take is they've got to appreciate how much of a story mess the trilogy ended up. Regardless how much people love certain characters, I don't think anyone can deny that the way it was handled story-wise was just they really dropped the ball. That's the fairest way to describe it. And in terms of the actors, they're all going to be able to see what kind of career they can make for themselves outside of Star Wars. Otherwise, you become hamstringed to the franchise for your entire career. So I think from 2 points, story-wise, they've got to recognise they really dropped the ball on it. And 2, I don't think that actors at this point in time will be keen to reprise roles. And I think that's
too soon, isn't it?
I think that's probably the fairest.
I mean, most of them have gone on record. You know, Oscar Isaac and, you know, Daisy Ridley especially has gone on record to say that, like, they're kind of done with it for now. I mean, obviously they always diplomatically leave a door open, don't they? You know, say, well, you know, if something comes up later on, or as Oscar Isaac says, if he needs a new house, then, you know, he'll think about reprising the role. So, you know, never say never. And I mean, even John Boyega seemed to be quite up for doing like some kind of animated voice and stuff. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, that's the thing. There's scope there, and that's the thing. But it's like no one's been brave enough yet to kind of like, you know, offer a story beyond you know, episode 9. You know, so we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, for instance, who do the droids belong to these days? You know, now that the original trilogy cast are basically all gone, you know,
Tell us, Brian, you're the droids expert. Who do the droids belong to?
But, you know.
I like to think of them as being Force ghosts. Well, I think on that note, I think we should wrap up for the evening. Guys, when can people check out the next episode of Making Tracks?
Oh, it's Tuesday, hopefully Tuesday afternoon. If not, it'll be Tuesday evening. But we've been busy this week. We've got 2 episodes, so there's another episode coming out on Friday, following on from the Christmas episode of Desert Planet Discs, which is out on Thursday. So busy week.
Check out fanthatracks.com for all the up-to-date info. So thanks, guys, for joining me, and we'll call that an evening. Thank you, everyone.
Nice.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.